Hello, my name is Lindsay Kittner, Vice President of Product Management for Tadiran Telecom. In this presentation, I will go over the new items in our Aeonix4Cloud and Aeonix on-premise version 6.1 release. With our new release, version 6.1, Aeonix4Cloud has some new features and functionality. On the user side, we are introducing touch standard users with continuous recording. This call recording or logging allows non-Aeonix Contact Center users to have their calls recorded as defined in the active recording rules in Aeonix4Cloud. As far as call recording, Aeonix4Cloud has two options. The existing default record on demand uses Aeonix messaging, where a user will have a record on demand button programmed on their phones. When it is pressed, the call from that point forward is recorded and placed in the user's voicemail box. New continuous recording to our logger system is a new option released in version 6.1. Calls are recorded using active call rules programmed in Aeonix4Cloud. The default retention of the recordings for the users is 3 months. If additional recording months are required by the customer, the monthly cost is automatically calculated based on the number of users being recorded and additional number of months. This calculation is done in our Aeonix4Cloud portal quoting tool. One thing I want to bring to your attention: if you add continuous recording to an Aeonix4Cloud or Aeonix on-premise system, you can no longer use the voicemail for recording on demand. At that point, recording on demand request for non-continuous recording users will be sent to the logger. This means those users will have to log into the logger web page to access and hear their recordings. We will go over the new logger later in this presentation. Next, we have added high traffic options for Aeonix4Cloud customers. For these customers, you can sell additional voicemail ports and Aeonix Contact Center IVR channels so you can tailor the Aeonix4Cloud system to the customer's traffic. By default, each Aeonix4Cloud instance starts with 4 voicemail ports and grows by 2 additional ports for every 20 users above 40 total users. Also by default, for each touch CC agent seat sold to a customer, 3 ACC IVR channels are authorized in Aeonix4Cloud. These high traffic options allow you to design Aeonix4Cloud based on your customer's needs. Next, we'll look at new features with touch. With version 6.1, Tadiran is releasing a new version of Touch UC Client. The Touch UC Client has been redesigned so the PC version has the same look, feel, and functionality as the mobile version that is available on the Apple App Store and Google Play stores. On the Touch PC version, you can download that directly from your Aeonix instance in Aeonix4Cloud. Additionally, features and functions programmed by the user are shared between both the PC version and mobile versions. This means that the same experience and interface between both of them for your Aeonix4Cloud users. The new features for Touch version 6.1 include virtual buttons on a 5x5 grid or 25 programmable buttons that allow the user to program speed dial numbers, busy lamp buttons, and ACC agent login and release buttons. The first row of these buttons, defined in the grid, are called persistent buttons. They are shown in other touch user screens such as favorites, recent calls, and chat. Touch UC client soft phones can also now be used as ACC agents, either as a PC-less agent using virtual buttons or the ACC web agent or ACC client. Under touch settings, the user can enter their voicemail password, allowing them to access their voicemail without having to enter the password manually each time. We also have on Touch Mobile, users can now search their contacts on their phone. The user can then either dial or mark from that entry as a favorite for easy access. And finally, on the Touch PC, the user can add a small application on their PC that allows click to dial from Outlook contacts or highlight and hotkey dialing from web pages or documents without the need of a VPN client. Here are a few examples of the new touch PC and mobile screens. You can see here on the left we have virtual buttons where I can come up and select the type, whether it be speed dial, voicemail, record on demand, emergency dial, or ACC functionality. Once programmed, the ACC functionality buttons for PC-less agent appear on the grid and can be activated by a single depression by the user. On the left side, you will see an example of the grid for the touch, PC, and mobile, a 5x5 grid with the bottom row being a different shade. Those are the persistent buttons. The user can move any of the buttons in the grid to and from this persistent row so that it can be shown in other screens, such as on the right with the favorites window. Now let's look at the new release for Aeonix Logger. Tataran is announcing a new continuous recording platform with Aeonix4Cloud and Aeonix on-premise. Currently, the Logger program is in beta testing with our Aeonix4Cloud and will be released with Aeonix4Cloud customers first. It will be released for on-premise customers in the first quarter of 2021. As stated earlier, there are two limitations. Continuous recording is not available for Aeonix4Cloud biz customers. So if you're quoting a small system with less than 10 users, Aeonix Logger is not available for those customers. Additionally, when continuous recording is added to Aeonix4Cloud and Aeonix on-premise solutions, recording on demand is shifted to the Logger. The Aeonix Logger is a web-based product that replaces the current Windows client-based recording platform. Shifting to Linux reduces the total operating cost for your customers. Logger 2G, being web-based, has a new look and feel. With Aeonix4Cloud, administrators and users will be able to access the Logger system via any web browser. Finally, Tataran will offer professional services to migrate existing Logger customers over to the Logger 2G platform. Here is an example of the Logger 2G web page. After the user logs into the system after opening this up on a browser, here's what they will see. they'll see a list of recordings that they are allowed to access, whether they're a administrator, department head, or a single user. The recordings will have a date, time, automatic number or ANI information of both parties that were recorded on the call, the length of the call, etc. The user will be able to filter the list, search the list for specific items. You can sort the list additionally by clicking on the header at the top of each column. Selecting the recording will show the recording above and can be played if the user has a sound card or headset. The user can also download the selected recordings locally to their PC. On the left side, the administrator can add, delete, or edit users, as well as add or edit roles within the company. Now let's take a look at the enhancements for Aeonix Contact Center in version 6.1. In version 6.1, Tadran is moving Aeonix Contact Center from a client to a web-based contact center. ACC supports touch PC and mobile phones as an active ACC agent. Remember, touch PC and touch mobile allow ACC feature buttons to be created so that the user can log in, log out, release and resume from the touch clients without the need of a PC. ACC also supports ACC Web Agent in a browser, in addition to the PC client. The ACC Web Agent is a control panel for agents to control their desk phones, their T4X series phones, their touch PC, or their touch PC mobile phones. ACC Agent in Aeonix4Cloud will no longer require a VPN to be run to connect to our data centers. Additionally, ACC Web Agent will allow customers to run these on non-Windows PCs using Chrome browser. In ACC Web Agents, agents will be able to see their personal statistics as well as current call queue status. And finally, developers can create and define web calls that can be used to push information to third-party web services. Now let's look at the infrastructure enhancements in ACC with version 6.1. These include Web Agent integration with Salesforce. This allows the ACC Web Agent to run inside a frame within the Salesforce web application. Web services in IVR allow hooks using put, post, and get commands to HTTP and HTTPS IVR databases. The REST API for external applications. The ACC has an open API. This will allow developers to create their own agent via the API to emulate buttons in their own CRM packages. ACC alarms in Aeonix Web, so you can get alarms of the ACC application to NMS packages. Of course, this is all running on CentOS version 7. And we also now support certificates within the ACC for security purposes. We've enhanced the corrective diagnostics within ACC for R&D and reporting purposes, and we've also updated Tomcat to the latest version of 8.0 to have much better security. Starting in version 5 of Aeonix and Aeonix4Cloud, we supported Carey's Law and the Ray-Baum Act as required by the FCC. However, the programming was not straightforward. Starting in version 6.1, Tataran developed emergency conferences in Aeonix4Cloud and Aeonix. Technicians can define a range of emergency conferences so multiple emergency calls can be handled simultaneously. When the user dials the emergency conference or the call is routed to the emergency conference, then the call is sent to the PSAP or the emergency 911 center with the correct ELIN from the original caller. It automatically joins other members into the conference in mute, and these members can be internal members for emergency response as defined by Carey's Law, or it can be external numbers. If an Aeonix member is busy and an emergency call takes place, that user can be preemptive and brought into the conference. And if Aeonix Dispatch Center is deployed on premise or at the customer's location, an emergency call is indicated to the user by a dedicated grid that is popped up and presented to them. Tataran has also sourced a SIP-based panic button that can be discreetly placed by a user either underneath a desk or countertop, for example. It's supported by Power over Ethernet. It has a microphone on the unit so personnel can hear what is happening in the local area. Combining this panic button with emergency conferences in Aeonix allows schools, governments, and companies to create an emergency action plan. Another enhancement in version 6.1 are system directories. System directories in Aeonix allow companies and employees to create either public or private directories that can be searched and used to dial by Aeonix telephones, as well as display names on Aeonix telephones on incoming calls. Infrastructure enhancements on Aeonix4Cloud and Aeonix on-premise include support for CentOS 7. On new installations of Aeonix version 6.1, Tataran includes version CentOS 7. However, upgrades from Aeonix version 5 to Aeonix version 6.1 are not required to rebuild the servers to CentOS 7. CentOS version 6.7 will continue to be supported on these installations and upgrades. Tataran has developed an audit log function in Aeonix. Programming changes, who did the programming changes, on what date and time will be recorded in Aeonix so a technician can go back and look at those later. Certificates can now be deployed in Aeonix and Aeonix Contact Center for additional levels of security. And finally, provisioning files used by Tataran SIP phones are now encrypted and can no longer be read with a simple text editor. As I stated before, customers in Aeonix4Cloud that have heavy traffic can expand the number of voicemail ports and IVR channels to handle the increased load. Standard ratios of total users versus voicemail ports in Aeonix4Cloud is 1 voicemail port for every 4 total Aeonix4Cloud users with a minimum of 4 voicemail ports. The standard ratio of IVR channels is for every ACC agent in Aeonix4Cloud Tadaran authorizes 3 IVR channels in the ACC. The IVR channel in the ACC is used so callers can hear a message or the ACC can gather digits from the caller. When a caller is listening to music on hold, the ACC and Aeonix can be programmed so calls can be moved off the IVR channel to a virtual endpoint, freeing that IVR channel up to handle more calls. For customers that have heavy traffic, additional licenses can be purchased on a monthly basis through the Aeonix4Cloud web portal. There is no denying that Microsoft Teams is becoming a leader in collaboration. Many companies have standardized this as their de facto collaboration program. Tadaran has certified Call to Teams as a software application that allows MS Teams to be integrated with Aeonix4Cloud and Aeonix on-premise systems. Call to Teams registers as a third-party device to Aeonix4Cloud or on-premise Aeonix systems, and that third-party device can be assigned to users. Inbound calls to Aeonix users can then ring MS Teams clients, both PC or mobile, using Call to Teams. Aeonix4Cloud or Aeonix users can use MS Teams clients to make outbound calls using Call to Teams. Tadaran does not distribute Call to Teams software, but users can purchase these seat licenses either directly from Call to Teams or from Microsoft. Tadaran has implemented a network management system on our Aeonix4Cloud platform. This allows Tadaran to proactively monitor Aeonix4Cloud instances and applications in our data center. With our network management system, Tadaran can continuously track Aeonix4Cloud instances, Tadaran and audio codes gateways, a logger application, our audio codes SBCs that we use in our data centers, as well as phones that are registered on Aeonix, and finally our infrastructure back end that support Aeonix4Cloud. This combined with VMware's vMotion resiliency that we use in our data centers allows Tadaran to provide one of the highest availability times in the industry. Here's an example of alarms that can be created and monitored by our network management system in Aeonix. Here's a simplified diagram of our network monitoring solution of our Aeonix4Cloud servers in our data center. And finally, this is an example of performance monitoring that we're using of our Aeonix4Cloud instances with our network monitoring system. In summary, Aeonix version 6.1 is released for Aeonix4Cloud, Aeonix on-premise solutions, and Aeonix Contact Center. The Touch UC client has a fresh new interface that brings additional functionality and ACC agent support. Our ACC web agent allows full agent functionality without a VPN. Our Aeonix Contact Center supports web services that allow deeper integration with ACC with third-party and customer applications. Our web-based logger provides easier call monitoring, and emergency conferences and panic button provide customers another level of security. If you have any questions on this, feel free to visit us, our webpage at www.tadarantally.com or contact your local regional sales manager. Thank you.